week's episode of Startup Screw 'em. I am waiting on your boy Birdman coming over here. Um, Reagan, Reagan, come here, honey. Hold on. All right, honey. All right, I got the baby here today, so I'm gonna be back and forth over here. Got a lot going on, ladies and gentlemen, here today. Not a lot of injuries, so not a lot of dilemmas. Obviously, everything is just your week in, week out. Who to start, who to sit. Joe is live. Let's go ahead and get him in here. What's going on, Joe?
What's going on, Manny? What's up,
Not
Gendry?
much, brother. Gendry's already live over here. All right, let's get the chat. What's up, Gendry? What's going on, brother? I didn't even see you come in already here. Let's see, 12-16. Yeah, just right on the money over here, brother. Gendry already has Bijan Robinson going, of course. That was his number one pick, so I don't expect anybody else to go there. We already had our Thursday games going. Obviously, most of you, probably only 20% of you started David Montgomery. I'm part of the 80% that did not. So if you had your doubts, don't be ashamed. I mean, they only announced 1 hour before kickoff that he was playing. They also only announced 1 hour before kickoff that their starting left tackle came back from injury, right? Taylor Decker came back. They moved Penei Sewell to the right tackle. So, a lot of last-minute dominoes moving there.
Yeah,
that was a rough game.
In one league, as soon as I got the news that he was starting, I actually took Gibbs out and put Montgomery in. So I really lucked out there.
Okay. You did, huh? That was a good move.
I mean, it was a gamble, but I just figured he was going to get the goal line work, which he clearly did.
Yeah, and I did that, and then at 8:14 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I switched them back. So I
was going back and forth all week, trying to figure out which of those two to plug in.
No, I switched it, and like an hour, when I saw the news, I was watching Amazon Prime, so you actually have the ability to like rewind and everything. So I saw the pre-injury report. I was like, oh shit, I didn't know Taylor Decker was back in, and sure enough, made that mistake, and lo and behold, I am regretting because that team, it looks like I'm gonna get lost. So the positive is that team is a mess anyways. So the only positive I can look at it is maybe there's a waiver wire gem that I might get this week, but I mean that's probably the thinnest waiver wire availability I see in all three of my leagues. So it's not looking good, but we'll see. I'm hoping for a Devontae Adams blow up week this week with Aiden O'Connell, the rookie, because Devontae Adams really gloating about him, so I could really get some good trade pieces back for him.
I'm real high on him and Jacoby Myers this week. I think they're both going to have a big game. And, I have Christian Kirk in a couple leagues. I have him in like 4 leagues, and I started him in 2, and I benched him in 2, and he had a great day. So,
what is he at right now? I know he was at 15 last time I checked before I was running to the store.
16 or 17 now. Probably just caught one more pass. But yeah, he looked good. Ridley had a touchdown. But the targets, Kirk got a lot more than Ridley today. So,
yeah,
who's the wide receiver one over there? I don't know.
So it looks like Evan Ingram and Kirk are going to get all the workload, and then Ridley's going to get he's going to be the goal line guy.
Yeah,
he seems to be the most. He seems to have the best hands on the team. And then Kirk, Kirk's the best route runner I think out of the bunch. So he's going to run the seams. He's going to stretch the field out for him. Evan Ingram's going to go ahead and run the yards after the catch, and then Ridley's going to be your guaranteed hands, and really get those touches. So it's going to be a good split between the three of them.
Yeah, Evan Ingram's getting plenty of targets today too.
Yeah, and I got my got the little one here today.
You got the expert
Mama left for the day. Yeah, so she's going to be the next fancy expert over here. So she's one of them. So. Yeah. Mama went over there to took the oldest here, so I gotta I'm watching the little one here, but She's over here watching Coco Melon. Can you hear her and Coco Melon in the background or no?
Let me hear. Barely.
Not,
keep it on. Keep it on.
Okay.
I got my little man. Jordan, come here. Say hi real quick. I got my little expert playing the new Mortal Kombat.
What's up, nice. Man? He's playing the new Mortal Kombat.
1 o'clock the games go on. But...
Hey, what's up, bud? How you doing? Hey, good to meet you, bud.
He threw a lineup in today too.
Oh, nice. Okay, the next fantasy expert over there.
Yeah.
You want to sit down, honey? Here, let's sit down. Let me get her situated. Plug in some starts over here. It looks like there's a couple guys. Is there some injuries that are out today? Some major injuries?
And Gendry, I'm happy that Kirk got the wide receiver one. Basically, he looks like the wide receiver one. And I was really high on Christian Kirk before the season came in. I did a player profile on him saying that everyone's really, really high on Ridley, and he looked awesome in preseason, but that doesn't mean he's the wide receiver one. After the first game, everyone thought he was the wide receiver one, myself included, but I love to see Christian Kirk getting the targets that he got last year. In the last 3 games, Christian Kirk has been the clear wide receiver one. So outside of that first game, I think he's proven to be the guy that Trevor Lawrence is looking for.
Yeah, he is his favorite target. I agree. But you could tell they're going to spread the ball around. That's kind of how Doug Peterson called the plays in Philly too. Like they spread it around between because they had Torrey Smith and they had Alshon Jeffrey back in the day. And they also had Brent Selleck back in those days too.
And I saw that Evan Ingram's targets, I think, was the most out of all 3 of those guys. So,
yeah, he had let's see how many targets he had today. The game's already over, right?
Yeah, it just ended. I'm not sure how many targets he had today, but leading up to this game, I think he had more targets than Ridley and Christian Kirk. I could be wrong, but I think so.
I know, honey. Go ahead, play with that. Go ahead. I know, honey. So I let me pull up the stats over here, the score sheet. So overall, obviously the game, Jags scored everything in the first half. They didn't really score anything more than a field goal in the second half. So Evan Ingram
had another solid
with 7
day.
receptions.
Yeah,
7 receptions, 59 yards.
Yeah, the last 3 games, he's had 8 targets, 7 receptions, 7 receptions, 6 receptions. And the first game, 5 targets, 5 receptions. So he's steady 10 to 13 points. Man, he's looking real solid.
Yeah, but some fantasy sits for today. I would recommend sitting Brian Robinson. He has been hot lately, but sit him against the Eagles run defense, guys. Eagles run defense, number 1 in the league. They're only allowing like 40-something yards per game. So they're definitely number 1 in the league. And that's obviously due to the rookie Jalen Carter. And then Jordan Davis was last year's rookie draft pick, D tackle. So they're number 1 in the league. Gendry pulled off a nice little trade over here. He actually ended up getting Josh Jacobs for Brian Robinson, even though Jacobs has had a down year. I talked about it last week's show. You know, Josh Jacobs has been solid training camp and preseason. So he hasn't had the opportunity to actually get some work in. And, man, it's turned into an even bigger dumpster fire out there in Las Vegas than we thought. Chandler Jones just got released out there. Josh McDaniels and, I don't know. It's turned into even more of a circus in Las Vegas than we thought, so Cirque du Soleil has more of an effect out there. So could see some more turnovers in coaching. And if there's a turnover in coaching, in my opinion, does Devontae Adams get traded? Does a team, keep Josh Jacobs or lean on the run more? There's some uncertainty. I think it could work in Josh Jacobs' favor long-term, but, it remains to be seen.
Well, I think definitely short-term, that's a problem. If the coaching isn't working out right now and Josh Jacobs is already off to a rough start. I know you and I disagreed a little bit about that when we were talking on Wednesday. I feel like Josh Jacobs' production last year was an anomaly. We'll see. I mean, the volume is clearly there. And, if he continues the volume, if he gets the volume this year that we saw last year, I think there's no way around big numbers. But no one really expected him to do last year what he did. So I see him taking a big step back this year, a lot bigger step back than most people.
Yeah, and some big games projected to be today. Bears and Broncos, right? We got some breakout games coming today. I predicted obviously DJ Moore for my big balls call this week. You have Rashawn Johnson, his breakout game this week.
And
so
I like both of those guys this week.
Yeah,
of course.
I mean, we need and Justin Fields, right? Like, I mean, a lot of people banked on Justin Fields having a breakout year.
I did.
I mean, the guy's had zero accountability this year, right? Like, you hear the coaching, you hear all the coaching going on. You hear all the coaching going on lately about all the issues with him blaming the coaching for all his struggles, which is zero accountability. You don't want a player ever blaming the coaching 3 games into the season.
Even if it's true, you want to hear that.
Yeah, even if it is true. So that's the problem here. So you definitely want to see some changes there. So definitely you want to see a good game for them. You want a game like this from a team like the Broncos that just got 70, because if you even get half of that, 35 points is a big day for the Chicago offense. You need some confidence for them, because otherwise, if you have any shares of Chicago, which I have a few shares, I have 2 shares of DJ Moore and 1 share of Rashawn Johnson. I don't have high shares of them, but I want to see some production, because at the end of the day, you want to see that offense. Otherwise, it turns into a complete shit show. But obviously on the Denver side too, they look pretty promising on offense. Javonte Williams, Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy's apparently on the trade block. So if you have him, he could be someone that ends up in Kansas City, because Kansas City could be a member. I mean, they traded for Kadarius Toney. He's been a complete flop.
Yeah,
so I mean,
I figured, I expected that out of Kadarius Toney again. No surprise there, in my opinion. I'm interested to see what the Denver wide receivers do today if they're playing from behind. That'll be definitely interesting, and I assume that they will be. Let me see. So that's a 1:00 game too.
Which one? I'm sorry. I apologize. What was that?
Oh, no. I was just looking. What do you think about the Denver wide receivers? Since I assume they're going to be playing from behind. Now I could be wrong. Denver might come out and start kicking the shit out of Chicago. Chicago has looked really bad. So there's a good chance that I'm wrong and they're not playing from behind. But I feel like Chicago is going to have a big game and stomp Denver. And then Denver's going to be playing from behind. And yes, you do.
I definitely think it's I like Denver receivers more than Chicago's receivers for sure. And then what more is he talking about? Have a big game?
I think DJ Moore.
Which more is he? He doesn't have DJ Moore there.
Oh, okay. Gendry, which more are you talking about? And I agree, dropping Toney.
Oh, Sky Moore. Oh, Sky Moore. Yeah. Sky Moore. Yeah, he has Sky Moore. That was a better play for sure. But yeah, I definitely think Denver has more upside, because at least you have some stability with Russell Wilson at the quarterback, right? You're not looking at Justin Fields being your quarterback, because anytime you have Patrick Mahomes as your QB, you have no issues. The problem is with Kansas City, they spread the ball around too much. So if your last name isn't Kelsey, you're not getting consistent looks on that offense, right? So until they go out and get that number 1 receiver, otherwise you're just going to be part of a rotation, a committee, if you will, just like a running back core. That the running back committee is exactly that in Kansas City. So is their wide receiver core. So until they go out and they go after a player that's on the block, and once they grab that player, you want to hope that he ends up being that guy, because there's no guarantee, because they could go after a player just like we thought Kadarius Toney was going to be that guy. He ended up not being that guy, and they wasted a second round draft pick on him.
Yeah. And like I said, I have not had any reason to respect Kadarius Toney's play in the NFL, so I didn't expect him to do anything this year either.
No work ethic. I said it a million times over, right? The guy stays 30 minutes after one practice. All of a sudden, he's a superstar.
Yeah.
But so, moving on to the next.
I just checked out Denver and Chicago. So Chicago is the underdog. Denver's favored by 3.5. I feel like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me getting hopeful about Justin Fields, but I feel like Especially with what I saw Denver do last week, I feel like Chicago is going to be able to get an early lead on them, and it might be a high scoring game, but I don't see Chicago losing this just because Denver looked so bad. And I know they played Miami last week, but still.
And moving on to the next game here, Austin Ekeler is completely doubtful. So one thing I wanted to talk about. So there's a guy that I talked about in the offseason, way early in the offseason, someone that could move up in the depth chart. And that was a gentleman by the name of Isaiah Spiller. So he actually moved up in the depth chart. He's active today. And as you know, Joshua Kelly has been a complete disappointment the last 2 weeks, right? You talked about him looking, someone that could have looked good because he looked good in preseason, but he has done nothing in 2 starts. Austin Ekeler out the last 2 weeks.
Picked him up
he's active. I made a play on him. So if you're watching this and you're in our teams and you have an extra roster spot and you want a Hail Mary start, that's somebody, because last week I kicked myself in the ass for last week for not making a flyer. So if you're looking at a guy on a free agency wire right now, that could be a potential guy. Because if you look at that San Diego offense, right, all that turmoil between Austin Ekeler and a contract and a running back situation, like Austin Ekeler right now and Jonathan Taylor are the guys that are causing the most ripples in the world right now for the NFL. They want to get paid, and they're completely devalued, they're disrespected, and they're high producers, right? So if you look at it, Isaiah Spiller, we talked about him having that pedigree, 4-star, recruit coming out of high school. He was the man, Texas A&M, and he finally has the playbook down. He's been a whole season under there. He's finally active on game day, so he's doing enough to probably control that ball security, because it probably was a ball security issue that has him buried on that depth chart. Because why else would you bury a rookie with that much talent, right? Maybe his attitude, maybe his work ethic, right? So he's active today. I saw him move up on his projections because he was active.
Yeah,
so I have a feeling he's going to be more involved.
I thought about grabbing him as a Hail Mary. I have 2 leagues where I'm putting a Hail Mary out there. I'm playing Zeke in one league, and I actually thought about playing Isaiah Spiller over him.
No, I would pick him up as a bench stash. I wouldn't go as far as to play him. But, if you're looking for somebody like, hey, if you pick him up and he puts up 15, you're like, that is going to be the clear handcuff to Austin Ekeler. Right. And whatever happens to Ekeler, if they let him, if they start running him in a committee and they give Spiller, because Spiller is like 5'10", 200. He's a stocky dude. He has the same exact build as Josh Kelly. Josh Kelly's 5'10", 200, So if he's going to go ahead and, run that particular role, he's going to be way more efficient. And I think he's more explosive than Joshua Kelly. Joshua Kelly wasn't even that impressive at UCLA. So that's a guy that I like in that, obviously going into that matchup there. But in general, for that matchup, we're looking at, obviously, the Chargers are going to be high scoring. We talked about it last week. Joshua Palmer stepping into that role. He's going to do nice. Quinn Johnson's going to get some looks, but he's a rookie. He's going to struggle a little bit. But overall, that offense, it's going to be an offensive game. I think I picked that as my high scoring game of the week here. And that was the Chargers versus the Raiders. So Aiden O'Connell, like you said, you like,
I like Jacoby and
Jacoby Myers.
Yeah.
Yeah, Devontae over there. Josh Jacobs may have his breakout game. We'll see there.
Let's hope so.
Some other notable games. What was your other high-scoring game of the week?
The Dolphins and the Bills, of course. One of
the first games.
Yeah, the rock-solid offense from both teams should be exciting to watch. Then I said to stay away from the Buccaneers and the Saints. That was my cold call. We'll see how that goes down. Bengals and the Titans, man, I don't know about that one. I really hope Derrick Henry bounces back. DeAndre Hopkins is healthy, so he's going to be playing. Jamar Chase was great last week. Hopefully he can continue that this week.
Yeah, the Bengals started off slow last year too. People were panicking on them, and
we know that
all of a sudden they got on a tear.
And we know Joe Burrow's always up and down. But this
big ups, and then when he's high. He's putting 30 to 40 points a game. So you don't have to worry about those teams too much. You start set them or forget them. Titans, obviously, like you were saying, a good run defense, right? Nobody's put up anything in the top 10 against their defense so far this year on the run. in fantasy scoring. So, if you have Joe Mixon, I mean, it's going to be a tough matchup. If you have anything better, if you're in a dilemma, don't start him. I know I'm in a position right now where, I have a lot of depth, and my guy already played. The guy I'm playing against, he's already had 4 starts right against me. He has 60 points. So 4 starts, 60 points. That gives me a nice little start. I'm at 16, so I'm just under the 20 mark. So I have a chance. And that's considering I left Montgomery on the bench and all my starts. So the other league, obviously, I already accept, I already look at it. I accepted defeat. I have 31 points and 3 starts. So that's 10 points. Not horrific, but it's not looking good when my highest scoring position quarterback has already played, Yeah. So that's, and then my second best position, I replayed my 2 plays. Both my running back positions are played. So I'm pretty much accepting that one as a defeat. The other 2, I still have chances, And that's how it is sometimes,
I know. It sucks.
The early weeks are tough.
When you have a Thursday night game that doesn't work out, it's tough for the rest of the week.
Yeah, and I already accept it, man. Like I've had I tell people this early in your season, it's not time to panic. It's assessing. I'm in a risk assessment business. I do insurance in real life. So I look at it this way. You're gonna have your ups and downs, and you gotta assess your team. And what's more important, like I tell people, I have Devontae Adams, and I'm gonna beat a dead horse. Trade your superstars. If your team is struggling, take your superstar player, top 5, top 10 player in fantasy football, and you trade them for 2 top 20, 25 players. And then you make your team better, because now instead of investing your eggs in one basket, you have 2 baskets, because injuries happen. Matchups happen. Your star player may not always get you that 30 to 40 points a game. You're going to have a matchup where they're going to get you 10 to 20. And those 2 other players can get you 15. And I'd rather take that 30-point week than that 15-point week. And that could be the difference between victory and defeat.
And I'm not saying you should do this unless you need to, but you've got 2 guys on the Texans today. You got Tank Dell and Nico Collins that are going against an exploitable secondary in the Pittsburgh Steelers. They could both have a really big game today, and you can sell super high and get 2 stud players for either one of them. And they weren't even really on the radar a few weeks ago. So you probably picked them up off the waiver wire, and now you got them on your team, and you could sell them high. And that does depend on today's game, but I see this being a good game for those guys. CJ Stroud's looked awesome. They've looked awesome. They're getting plenty of targets. They can't run the ball. They won't run the ball against the Steelers. The Steelers' run defense is rock solid. Their offensive line is seriously damaged. So I doubt Dameon Pierce is going to do much. But Steelers' secondary isn't that great. Tank Dell and Nico Collins are going to get the targets. I'm just saying, if you need to fill your squad with more depth and you have Nico Collins or Tank Dell, you can probably sell high on them going into week 5.
Well, yeah, and I in my other league, I was I had a start, and obviously right now Tank Dell. So Pittsburgh secondary is ranked 28th, right? The secondary is ranked 28th in the league. Bad. So obviously, but obviously their run defense is top in the league, right? Like you're not going to run against that front 7. But and then versus Houston is ranked 9th pass defense, but those numbers, and me and Joe were talking about this on the show, those numbers can be skewed, right? So right now, Houston is ranked 9th, but Derek Stingley is out for the game. So they're ranked 9th, but their top cornerback is out. So that they're not going to be 9th today. They're probably going to be 32nd. And then although Pittsburgh is ranked 28th, they still have J.J. Watt, a top 5 pass rusher in the league. So they get that pressure. And let's say Houston has an injury on the O-line, and now it's going to be a long day for the Houston Texans. So I actually benched Tank Dell against a 28th ranked pass defense, and I'm playing George Pickens against a 9th pass defense, because I like the upside of George Pickens against a beat up secondary than I do against a consistently bad secondary, just because football is a game of momentum and a game of chance and luck, right? So
I think that's
how I see it.
I think that makes perfect sense, and that's a tough call. I actually have one league where I'm playing Puka Nacua, Tank Dell, and George Pickens. It's a 3 wide receiver league, and I'm playing 3 rookies at wide receiver because they've all been on fire. So I hope you're right. I hope it's a good back and forth, but I hope to see Tank Dell, George Pickens, and Puka have a great game. And I mean, I think they all will. They've been consistent enough to feel confident about putting them in.
Yeah, I think, and to me, it boiled down to target share, right? Touches per game. That's something that we stress, guys. People just look at targets. I look at touches, right? If it's a wide receiver, are they getting rushes and targets? There's only a handful of wide receivers that are getting rushes and targets, like Debo's, and Jaden Reed for the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
He's another
Rondale
example
Moore.
of a wide receiver that's getting. Yeah, Rondale Moore, right? So that's a small example. DJ Moore, if they actually get him involved correctly, could be one of those wide receivers. Even Tank Dell, right? He gets some touches back there.
Even Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua have had runs. So I love seeing that too, by the way. I don't remember, that seems to be a new thing. I mean, I know we saw Debo do it a lot over the last couple of years, but to have wide receivers involved in the run like that is relatively new to the NFL as far as the frequency. We would see it rarely in previous seasons, but once you see that success with Debo and other players, it's cool to see other teams start to implement that to their offense too.
Yeah, and that's how the Dolphins have been so efficient. They do mismatches, right? So they have obviously running backs that run like wide receivers because they're running 4-2s, 4-3s. But if you look at their offense, it's about mismatches, because if you put a wide receiver in the running back position, he is being guarded by a linebacker as opposed to a DB. So now you're taking your guys that are running 4-2s, 4-3s, 4-4s, and DBs, and you're switching over to the 4-5s or 4-6s, even 4-7s in a linebacker, right? And someone who's probably not processing faster because they're not used to running routes. They're used to probably taking blocks, chipping blocks, running, recognizing plays behind the line of scrimmage, not necessarily used to coverage, right? So, I mean, some coverage linebackers
just be
are,
that
but
how many of a time that makes a difference.
Exactly, and that could throw things off. So when I made that decision too, I looked at it like Pickens has 23 targets and 3 games, and that's what it boiled down to: 23 targets in 3 games, and Tank Dell has 21. So it boiled down to who's going to get the more consistent looks, and I'm going to go with the 2-year man versus the rookie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it could be Nico Collins days.
Yeah.
Huh?
That's what I was just kind of saying the same thing. Is Pickens is the wide receiver 1 now with Deontay out, and Tank Dell is still probably the wide receiver 2 behind Nico Collins. So, and you've got Robert Woods there. So you got 3 wide receivers versus 1 dominant receiver against, you said, a secondary with their top guy out. So I think that's the right call. I think both are good plays this week, but I think Pickens is the right call in that situation. Like you just said, you can't look at only the matchup. You have to look at the circumstances around the matchup. If their secondary's 9th, but their top cornerback's out, they're clearly not 9th. And then you have the top wide receiver there now with the guy covering him that's not the best on the team. So got a good formula for Pickens today.
Oh yeah, I'll live by that. And then outside of that, I guess in my cold matchup, obviously the Chiefs and the Jets. Avoid anybody not named Mahomes or Kelsey. Other than that, it's going to be a rough day, tough sledding, tough to watch. And then obviously a good day of football. Everyone should have some good starts here. You have any other injuries here? I was actually just scanning through, seeing if I saw any new injuries that didn't pop up over here.
Yeah, I'm just looking at each game now. There's nothing that stands out to me.
Saquon's out. We expected that. Matt Breida playing today, so don't expect much production from him.
It's Monday, but yeah.
Odell Beckham's out. We expected that. So is
and then you got the Niners and the Cardinals. That should be a good game.
Nico Collins or T. Higgins? I'm gonna go with Nico Collins. Well, who are the Bengals playing again? I just saw it right now. The Bengals are playing the Titans. Titans have a horrible secondary, so
that's a tough one.
Honestly, if you could play both, I mean, it's a coin flip at that moment. So, who's gonna get the better target share? Let me see what
I think
what Higgins' workload.
I think you should play Nico Collins, but that's a tough call. I feel like Nico Collins is a safer play. He's been more consistent than T. Higgins. T. Higgins is one of those dudes that'll get you 25 or 5, and that's stressful. But I think Nico Collins is, don't get me wrong, Nico Collins can be boom bust too. But I think over the last 3 games, he's showed you a really good floor where T. Higgins has been up and down. So I would personally play Nico Collins, but I kind of feel the same way about Pickens and Tank Dell. They're both a good play, and that could be a coin flip. I'd go with your gut, but my gut says Nico Collins.
Yeah. I mean, Higgins he has been hot and cold, literally 0 points, 20-some points, 4 points, and that's obviously like PPR. So he's definitely the definition of hot and cold, and you just got to go with the safer floor, and that would probably be Nico Collins.
Yeah, I think Nico Collins.
That's what I'd do. I'd go with the safer floor. At that point, you're not even going for upside.
And Nico Collins has plenty of upside too. So,
and honestly, and you're talking about that over Marquise Brown. I mean, Nico Collins over Marquise Brown against the Niners, and shit, Nico Collins only got 3 looks last week against the Jags, and Jags are terrible. So
that's strange.
I don't know, man.
I didn't realize he only had 3 looks last week. I thought he had more targets than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Higgins might be the play then. That's a tough one.
Yeah, because Nico only had 3 looks. He could be back this week, and it's just you definitely got to go with your gut, man. It's too much inconsistency at that point. It's too much inconsistency to call. It's early season. I think once you get about midseason, you know exactly what to expect. But this early, you're just coin flipping at this point. All right, Joe, you got anything else for these people? I didn't see any other injuries here. No other starts. Yeah, Higgins had 8 targets. Even though he only had 4 points, he did have 8 targets. That's a good call, Andrew. Look at
collectively, T. Higgins has had a lot more targets, 28 to 23. Well, 5 more targets, but I don't know, 0, 29, 4. I don't know. It's a coin flip for me.
Yeah. But yeah, I would go with the safer floor, more consistency. But yeah, that's I think that's all we have for here today, guys. Appreciate everybody for joining us here at Gendry. Again, appreciate you. We're gonna have you as a guest here if you call that right here with T. Higgins. We're gonna have you as a little surprise guest for next week.
If you don't mind jumping in loyalty. Here, we can go 3 screens.
We'll go ahead and have you up for a couple minutes, and so people can see your goofy mug over here and see what you got.
Yeah,
but ladies and gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here. But I appreciate you guys joining us here. MJG, of course, here. Joe, appreciate all of you joining us here. We will have some player profiles this week, of course. Enjoy your Sunday, football Sunday. Joe, you got anything for these guys?
No, just check out the player profiles we did last week because we've been on point. I'm not trying to brag or boast, but we have been really, really accurate with everything we're going over in the player profiles. So I have a feeling we're going to see all the things that we were discussing this week come true today as well.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate the love. Take care and have a good rest of your football Sunday, guys. All right.